When it comes to both manga and anime, Rurouni Kenshin is simply one of the standards by which other action-adventure series are judged. Anyone who's seen it or read it will probably tell you it's a classic. Rurouni Kenshin was originally a 28-volume manga, so what the hell is this 2-volume thing, Rurouni Kenshin Restoration? Well, you know how some things have an alternate ending? Restoration is pretty much an alternate beginning to the story of Kenshin. Sounds pretty unnecessary, right? Well, unfortunately, it is. Rurouni Kenshin Restoration isn't all that good. To start off, the plot and pacing is done very poorly. Throughout the manga, almost all the scenes and events feel really rushed and poorly paced. And to make matters worse, the first volume is spent constantly switching between as many as 3 different time periods. So unless you're extremely familiar with the Kenshin universe, it'll be almost impossible to follow what's going on. And although Volume 2 was for the most part linear, I still found it to be confusing and sort of unorganized feeling. But I'd have to say, the low point of the manga are the characters. They threw in way too many of them into this little 2-volume series. So, because of that, the characters and the relationships between them feel really rushed. Take Sanosuke, for example. First, he's out to kill Kenshin, and then, 2 or so pages later, with almost no transition, he's Kenshin's best friend and he's living with him. The scene felt so rushed and unnatural, especially compared to the anime, in which that part of the story was handled much better. But, believe it or not, Restoration also suffers from the opposite issue. Rather than just rushing the good characters, they also focus way too much on this guy Kanryu. Now, Kanryu is a really unoriginal and one-dimensional guy, who is clearly supposed to be a very minor villain. But in Rurouni Kenshin Restoration, he's treated like the main antagonist, and trust me, he doesn't fit the role. Unfortunately, another thing that hurts the manga is the dialogue. Not only does the character's dialogue in Restoration feel poorly written and unnatural, but the speech bubbles are often illustrated in a way that it's hard to tell who's saying what, and when you actually can figure out whose words it is, it's hard to tell if they're saying it out loud or just thinking it. The only good thing I can really say about the manga is that the artwork is actually quite good. Some characters underwent minor changes to their appearance, and they actually came out really well. The original Rurouni Kenshin is an awesome series that people still enjoy to this day, so why does Restoration even exist? Well, turns out it's nothing more than a glorified advertisement for the live-action movie. The saddest part of the whole thing is that Restoration is the only version of the Kenshin story that's commonly available in North America. The anime is no longer licensed here, and the manga is surprisingly hard to find, so people might accidentally buy Restoration thinking it's a feasible place to start the series. Or, if you're a fan of the franchise already, the idea of an alternate beginning might make you want to read it. But how I see it, it's simply not different enough from the original to be all that interesting, yet it's also not similar enough to be considered a legitimate remake.